Good evening, traders. Let's get into our market recap and trade recap for today. It is Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. Let's just jump into it. So good day overall in the market. And we keep moving a little bit forward on trying to build some kind of a base in here. If we're taking a look at SPY, just over here on the weekly, SPY weeklies are trying to hold that 50 exponential moving average. Yes, last week we came down, bounced off of it. This week we broke through it, but we're back above it on the day. And you can see this area here, which is our previous little gap. We filled that gap completely previously, filled it again yesterday, bounced back above it. So this gap is acting as a pretty decent little support level in here. If we're looking at the daily chart here, you've had MACD trying to revert its way higher. Yesterday was a little blip in that, but really MACD has been reversing itself since about the 27th of September. And the RSI has been in and out and in and out, and now in and then back out of an oversold level. So we've definitely been oversold. After moving past the 3 ATR yesterday, you expected some sort of a bounce today, which is what we got, with the markets moving up 34 points, or about 73%, 0.73% here on SPY, and moving up $3.07. So SPY moving back up. This trend line here as well in this channel has we bounced right off of it again today. So we bounced off it nicely back here, bounced off it again here, went below it, but closed at it yesterday, and then hit it and bounced off of it today. So all good signs of maybe trying to find at least a temporary bottom in here. The weekly says we still have more downside to go. I don't know how far down that means, but we'll keep looking, somewhere in this area that we're in now, between 4,100, 4,200 on SPX. And again, we're sitting close to this 419, which is the 200-day. So I think this 200-day, the Bollinger Band, the 3 ATR, as well as this trend line. And there's also some previous support dating back here. That's a pretty good pivot level, sitting right here at about 417. So I think we are in a pretty good area here to find at least some temporary support, and we'll see what happens to it. So there's SPY on the session. Now the Qs had a pretty good day overall. Tech stocks in general had a really good, solid day. Bouncing solidly off of yesterday's down move, which didn't get into a 3 ATR or Bollinger Band area, but was a decent day to the downside as well. But tech stocks, as I mentioned in the previous video, they held up pretty well, and MACD has been improving. RSI is moving up. RSI is almost to the 50 line, which is a pretty important area to see. If we cross above the 50 and MACD is continuing to rise, that's a pretty bullish, even if it's temporary, it's a pretty bullish sign. So things look decent in here as we try to build at least somewhat of a base. I'm not saying we're done going down. I'm not saying giant rally is in tow, but I think somewhat of a rally in this downtrend is possible, and maybe some sideways repairing moves. So we'll see what happens, but QQQ overall looking pretty decent. If we take a look at IWM here, just struggling, but did bounce on the day today. So fractionally higher, extending below the Bollinger Band that's falling, staying completely below the 3 ATR. So IWM, very oversold on pretty much any daily indicator, not yet weekly, so there could be some more downside coming. However, you're pretty oversold, and it's a pretty good doji candle here, reversing. So it's very possible that we might get a bounce in the next day or so. Let's see if we get any continuation off of today's action, where we did finish off the lows, we finished near the highs. Overall, I think pretty good action in the markets overall. If we look at the VIX, dropped back down. So we briefly hit the 20 mark and then right back down to 18 and a half or so. So VIX still struggling. Nice to see the dollar down on the session. So a decent little down day here. on the markets, which was nice to see. It's nice to see the dollar taking a little break. It is overbought on both now the weekly and the daily charts on RSI. It's hitting that 3 ATR to the upside. It's at the top of the Bollinger Band. I think some reversion to the mean is probably due here, even if it's temporary. Hopefully we get a little bit more relaxation of the US dollar. If we take a look at TLT, got a tiny bit of a bounce off of yesterday's cratering. It is oversold. Weekly, it's oversold daily. MACD might be starting to recover here. It's way too early. One day does not make this a bounce. We'll see what happens, but maybe we're getting to some capitulation levels on bonds yield, and especially with the yield. So yield pulled back today. So we saw the whole thing is being triggered by yields. And when the 10-year yield drops a bit on the session, then you get the US dollar dropping on the session. Bonds rise, stocks rise, Forex rises. Everything is related for the most part to those interest rates, and seeing if are we getting to a max area here. I'm pretty shocked. I think it's a little bit more technical potentially than anything else, because not a whole lot is happening in the with any stocks. You don't have earnings yet, and I think the ousting of Speaker McCarthy, whether you're Republican or Democrat, from a Republican side, man, hey, the far side won. They got rid of maybe a more moderate conservative speaker. Fine, I'm not going to get political here. But the fact that the Democrats voted to get rid of someone who prevented gridlock, I think maybe just they wanted to have some fun with the whole thing. But you're now not going to get anyone that's moderate as Speaker of the House now. You're going to get someone who's extreme to the right, because who's going to want to get voted out again, and who's going to want to compromise? I think the Democrats seem to me a bit foolish to get rid of somebody who, bipartisan-wise, passed this extension. I think in 42 days or what have you, when that extension on raising the debt ceiling runs out, I think the battle will be raging, and I think it's going to be a long one, because I guarantee you the next speaker is going to be someone who's a lot stronger on the right, and they're not going to give in to these demands until they get what they want. And I think they can go to the mat on this thing. They want to prove it to their constituents. So I think the Democrats committed a little bit of an error trying to side with the far right Republican. I think that's just funny. Anyway, it may come back to bite you pretty good. Anyway, politics aside, that to me is a very negative thing coming up. I think the market is going into a shutdown. I thought it would be shut down for 45 plus days this time. I never saw that they would actually compromise, and I think the Republicans won't compromise next time. So I think we go into a long government shutdown in about 40 some days. So I think that's on the horizon. I'm surprised the markets moved up on that news. Oil dropped significantly today. OPEC meeting today, but inventories continue to be drained. So it's a little surprising here that oil would drop this far with the low inventory levels that are out there. And with the OPEC meeting and so forth today, I think this is a very overdone potential down move, but we've been talking about it for days. MACD's been falling, RSI's been falling. It broke that 50 line on here. In fact, let's draw that line in. I like to keep that rolling in here. So if you're looking at it down here, we'll fix it up right. But if we're looking at this the 50 mark on RSI, let me just clean it up. Make it fit correctly. And boom, there we are. So we broke through it in yesterday's, maybe late yesterday's session, but definitely today's session. But we were heading to this 50 and broke through it. That's a pretty negative sign on the daily. And we've been talking about the fact that the weekly has just been rolling over. If it breaks to 50, we can definitely see some more downside in oil. So where do we see oil going? Well, I think the next stop is going to be this previous level that dates back to October of 22. So I think now we start to see this level come into play back from way back in October, November of last year that we bounced up against as previous resistance, and then we used it as support as well. We did break through it here. Now let's see if it turns into a little bit stronger support. We broke through the 50 exponential as well today. So not good signs on oil short term on a technical level. It's getting to an oversold spot, but I think maybe it comes down, maybe it tests this next level down here too as well. Let's see what happens. But we got to give oil a little bit of a break in here. I think you can see a little bit more downside. Really good for our 112 trades. IV jumped on oil today. So because volatility jumped up a bit, we didn't really realize a lot of relief that we were hoping to get on some pullback in oil. Be careful, I guess, what you wish for. But volatility spiked, which kind of offset a lot of the drop in price. So it didn't really help our strangles a whole lot. And didn't really help our 112s a whole lot, just because it spiked the volatility on the naked puts. So we'll see what happens, but oil decent there. The one that's still the problem child and remains that way is gold. Gold continues to just be decimated. We thought maybe gold would flatten today, and it did end off of its lows, but it also ended well off of its highs on the session. MACD still falling. We have not seen any kind of a curve yet in the RSI or the MACD, but I think we're close. So are we close to at least a temporary bottom on oil? I don't know. Are we going to look maybe at the weekly 200-day moving average, about 1820? I guess that's what we want to take a pinpoint at. We broke through the 50% retracement. Pretty good the last couple days. Did not get back above it. So I think right now we're just going to keep an eye on this current move. I'm going to take the larger fibs off of it, and we'll take a look at the smaller fib levels, and maybe we can take a look at just this particular move itself and see on this down move. I don't know if we're done, but we'll see if this thing starts to turn around in any form, one way or the other. But right now, not a lot of bottoms in gold, so it doesn't really look that great. Anyway, let's jump into some of the sectors. XLY having the best day. Tech stocks up 2%. XLK right behind it, 1.25%. XLB right behind that. Real estate up. Regional banks up 1%. Communications up today. Financials up today. We did have some sectors in the red, and of course, oil being the leader, down 4%, and then XLE on that same oil news down 3% as well. And then XBI and healthcare and utilities still down. Utilities still getting crushed, but big down moves on oil, which is dragging energy down right now. But we've been talking about it for days here. Nothing surprising. I didn't expect maybe this sharp of a drop today, but we certainly expected it to continue to fall, because if you're really tracking the MACD and RSI, it's been telegraphing this for weeks and days. So we knew oil was going to drop in there. And let's take a quick look at a few quick stocks, and then we'll move on to the portfolio on the section. Amazon up just fractionally today, up 1.8%. MACD, RSI continue to try to recover here. Maybe we're putting in a base. We'll see. The weekly still doesn't look great. Apple was negative for a good chunk of the day, and it did move positive. MACD crossover today. So we'll see if that gives us any boost. MACD's rising on the daily. And the weekly, we'll see how this week goes, but it might be an improvement week on both RSI and MACD. We'll see. There's no area in here to really call any kind of support, so it's kind of making its own way. But you see this previous support line that we have in here. And if I extend this out, it's now become resistance. So we hit it. It was at one point a support, 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 support. So it was support a number of times, and now it's been resistance 3 days in a row. This stuff works. You just got to pay attention to it. If we break through this level here, then I think possibly we can. If we get a breakthrough this level, I think Apple helps move this market higher. Microsoft doesn't really have those same levels. Really can't find anything in here, but RSI and MACD have been improving on the daily. So if Microsoft and Apple get their act together, drags the markets higher. We've been talking about Meta. It still looks okay. It's hanging in there. You got to break this downtrend line here. We'll see if it can get going. It has really been in a tight range for 5 straight sessions right now. So this thing is getting really tight and really wound up. Really could have a triangle in here. If it breaks to the upside, I think everything is poised to potentially make a decent little bullish run here. Google started that run today. I think it's been moving higher. We've been talking about it. MACD, RSI breaking 50, moving higher. It broke the not only had it broken and closed below, but broke definitively, I think, above the 21 EMA today. Really great sign for Google. So I think Google looks really solid here. I think Google could be one of the leaders out of the gate here. Netflix, Nvidia, is just meandering around, struggling with the 50 line, but MACD is rising, RSI is rising on the daily. So we'll see what happens. I think we just get a lot of sideways movement in this one. But if everything's going to move up, look how these Bollinger Bands are getting tight. They're inside the Keltner, 3x Keltner channels now. Let's see what happens, but this thing looks to be squeezing a bit here, and we could get a pop. That's all I'm going to say. And then Tesla, which was up really nicely today, almost a 6% move in Tesla today. Absolutely looking strong in here. Big week of moves, 2 weeks now almost of moves to the upside. A lot of healthy looking stuff here. Still in the downtrend. So until this trend gets broken, okay, you still got to wonder, is it just a rally in an overall downtrend, or is it just going to be another lower high? So we got to get above these previous marks to see if we get any kind of trend reversal. Could just be some bounces in what's going on today. All right, so there's the markets for you. Let's take a look at the account, and let's share what happened on the session today. So we ended the day with our deltas at 580. So worked out pretty good. Got us right back to exactly the 0.2, which is our kind of our maximum range. We like to stick in that area. Theta stayed similar, about 1332. Stayed in the same, a pretty good range. Dropped back a bit. It's all good. It's pretty strong in here right now. And then NetLick popped up nicely today. So had a nice $4,000 up day in NetLick today. BP use, though, did jump up. Can't really find the main reason for that. I think I'll just put it on the fact that I think oil volatility has increased significantly today, and I think that puts some BP pressure on things overall. So we're at 82%, take away the 10% in bill, and we're at 72% in BP use. A little high, but I think I like where we are on some trades. What we really need is gold to find a little bit of a bottom in here and start to reverse higher. As the markets reverse higher, I think that fixes a lot of stuff on our portfolio. So right now it's just about oil. It's about oil. It's about gold, and it's about the market. So if we get the market, or I should say the S&P, moving higher, great for our stock. So we did make $425 today while we let Theta work. And how did that come about? Well, we did a call spread early in the morning as the markets were in a decent little downtrend. So we put these calls on earlier in the session today. We actually opened this call side around 10:30 or so in the session. And if we look at the charts today in the market on SPX, around 10:30 was a little bit. We had just gotten a bounce. So I think what was the trade? 1044. So at 1044 in the day, we were close to the high of the morning. We hit a downtrend line, and that's where we got in. So let me share that just so you have an idea of how we put on this call spread and a put spread. So call spread was a 50% winner. The put spread was a 67% winner a little bit later. So those were our two winners on the session. Here's what we were looking at when we made those moves on the day. Right here around 10:30 in the morning, we were definitely in a downtrend. Here you can see I drew this downtrend line early. So we were in this downtrend. Okay, we had been moving down, 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 down. On this bounce, we bounced all the way up here, and we hit the top. We made this trend and started to roll over on stochastic momentum just a little bit after that. So we were getting into an oversold area there. I still felt we were in a downtrend. So it was a good opportunity for me to put on a call spread. That worked out pretty well. We were able to close that call spread in 11 minutes. So on this next move down here, I mean, we hit it pretty much perfect at 1042. We had already started to turn over. That's when I got it on, and we fell all the way down, and we were out of this by 1055 is what happened. So we got out right here on this move, took our 50% winner. Then we bounced off this other trend line that I had drawn here. And once we started to move higher off of this trend line after that sell-off, we crossed back above all of our moving averages, MACD, RSI, all moving higher. RSI broke the 50 to the upside. This to me was a chance to get in on the put side. So at 1112 here, let's see right here, 1112 was this move here on the candle break right here of this downtrend. That's when I put on a put spread, a little bit of a pullback here, put on the put spread, and then we took off to the upside, and we were out of this trade in 48 minutes. So it took us 48 minutes to 12:01, right about here, near the highs of the morning session right before noon. So two good 0 DTE directional trades. I used credit spreads, could have used butterflies. Either way, two good winners. So I'll take the money and I will run with that for the day. So overall, a nice $4,000 update in the trading account and a nice couple gains of $425 overall on the daily account. So gets us back moving in the right direction, and we'll keep moving. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, do we get some follow through, and can we see if gold's going to find some support in here, whether it's going to be this 1850 level or 1800, 1820. That's really what's going to, mean a lot to a lot of our trades. We've already took a loss on a gold strangle. So we've got to see if gold, I don't want to take any more if I can avoid it, but it is part of the deal. But I'm thinking we're getting a bit overdone on gold, although we've been a bit overdone and we haven't stopped going down. But maybe we're starting to see some of that. Maybe 1820, 1800 might be that level. We'll see. Can gold find a bottom in here? Maybe it's also going to be this 200-day moving average, about 1820. So 1820 is the level we'll keep watching. If we can hang above that, I think we'll be in decent shape to at least let gold do some recovery here. All right, everybody have a fantastic evening. Good luck in trading to everybody, and we'll see you guys in the markets tomorrow. Thanks. Take care.